IPMNation.com.
All right, we're coming up on the top of the hour. What did I get myself into? It's kind of like riding like there ain't no clown.
Warning, all natural being with Brian Brawdy is designed to shake your sense of self to the core.
It's full contact psychology with an empowering twist, a philosophical loofah for your soul.
For those of you not ready or comfortable releasing your inner superhuman, listener discretion is advised.
Here's your host,
Brian Brawdy.
Good morning, it's Brian, and once again, I am passionately dedicated, wholeheartedly committed to one thing. I start my day and end my night, most every night, thinking about you, and every so often, the people around you. Now, I'm not interested in the watered-down, inauthentic, the herd-approved version of you, and neither should you be. Who wants that for themselves? We're talking about the real you, the true you, the all-natural you at your core, the intrinsic, organic perfection that is you, just waiting to be unleashed. So no more head games, no more brainwashing, no more blind spots, no more amnesia, no more taking a back seat to anybody, because you deserve to live your life at the pinnacle. You were born fully capable of leading a truly spectacular life, and it's my job to remind you of that each and every day. That's the line of work I've chosen, to turbocharge your brain, to prime your mind for the moment at hand, to get a hold of your head before the day does. And why do I think that is so important? Because the key, the one and only key, no matter what you hear, the one and only key to personal happiness, spiritual fulfillment, and professional success is to recall, revive, and release your inner superhuman, your all-natural being, and unleash the myriad natural resources that are hardwired within you. Why continue another moment in the farce? You are a force of nature. Make no mistake. It's fundamental to who you are. So no more masquerading, no more hiding, no more living your life like with the free will of a piece of tumbleweed. If you choose to hang out for the show, your days of surrender are over. Self-imposed barriers, gone. Personal limitations fabricated out of fear, thing of the past. Hobbled soul, not for you. It's time to unleash your inner superhuman, so let's hit it. All right, I have to tell you, it's a little something else, right? This morning marks the first day that I'll be doing the show solo. There's no one else here in the studio. I got to work my own board, to speak to myself, all that other interaction. So I want to start by thanking Bob Lockwood from Full Armor Studios for helping me all last week. And of course, the people at Metropolitan Co-working, the home of 14 Blends, for sitting with me last week, getting the studio up and running, kind of letting me get my sea legs a bit so that I could come into this week feeling a little, I got to tell you, it's kind of wild. I'm used to being in front of the camera, a bunch of people standing around, but now being behind the microphone, there's no one to interact with, at least not this early in the morning, right? It's like if you tell a joke, not that most people in person laugh at my jokes, but if you tell a joke on the radio, there's no thumbs up, no thumbs down. You don't have people necessarily tweeting you right away going, yeah, that was really funny, or no, that was really dumb. So my heart raced a little bit this morning as I got ready to do this because it's something, it's brand new to me. So I want to thank you all for hanging out. Oh, and speaking of thanks, I need to thank everybody listening because it's totally thanks to you, but we debuted on IPM Nation. We debuted a week ago this past Friday, #1, and we've retained the #1 spot on IPM Nation the entire week. I'm not kidding myself. If it weren't for you all, we most certainly wouldn't have been there. So I just want to take the time to thank everybody for listening. All my family, all my friends, extended friends as well. Thank them for listening and helping not only launch us into the #1 spot, but to keep us there throughout our opening week and then a day. So I super appreciate it, and I hope that you'll invite your family, your friends. Look, I've said countless times in the past, this may not be for you, right? This whole concept of all natural being. And believe me, I've gotten quite a few texts of people going, I'm not listening to that anymore, right? Now, thankfully, I've gotten a lot of emails and Facebook posts and texts of people saying, no, that's right on. But maybe you know of someone that could be benefited from attaching into their all-natural being, that could be benefited from releasing their inner superhuman, regardless of their age. So if you want to go ahead and share the link, that would be great. We might be able to, together, to do some good for those folks. All right, I want a couple other things. I want to jump right into the early morning meme, because it's going to dictate the flow of the rest of the show today, and I think it's a pretty important one, so I want to get right to it. Early morning meme, the truly successful in any endeavor, athletic, personal, professional, entrepreneurial, any endeavor you can think of, the truly successful never allow life to get in the way of their living. I want to say that one more time. The truly successful, no matter what you choose, they never allow life to get in the way of their living. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, Brian, life's life, right? All right, let me throw in another one. Albert Einstein, if you haven't, it's a really popular quote now. Everybody probably knows about it, but Albert Einstein believed that imagination was more important than knowledge, right? It wasn't so much book smarts, but imagination. The ability to picture things in his mind and then run from there, figuring out what would that mean? What would have to happen in order for that to be true? So he loved these thought experiments, and he writes about them at length. So what I'd like to do this morning, in support of our early morning meme, is do our own little thought experiment. All right? Now, I'm not saying this is the way it is. This is a thought experiment, right? I happen to believe that this is the way it unfolds. But for right now, give yourself permission just to do a little thought experiment with me. All right? Imagine, just for a moment, that prior to your birth, against truly unimaginable odds, you learn you're in the running for a human consciousness. You're on the short list, but the offer comes with a couple of strings attached. There is some fine print, and Providence moves to explain the details of the non-negotiable deal right up front. It's the cost of the ticket to board the ride that brings you to life. Now, the terms and conditions are straightforward and clear. The price for the overall opportunity of a lifetime is the all-in, wholehearted acceptance of your personal destiny. Should you be awarded an individual-sized packet of the universe's overall energy, you pledge a tour de force life. You promise to vigorously apply all of your authentic vitality and your natural resources to fully optimize your time on Earth, living with unbridled vision and passion. That's the gig you're being offered. No apathy, no procrastination allowed. Now, also comes with a bit of a warning, right? As I said, fine print. On your final day, you will be held accountable for your overall energy expenditure. This deal isn't about administrating conservation, but for courageousness applied. So you commit to surrender yourself to death, fully spent, 100% toast, your mental and physical reserves completely depleted, having burned through every bit of the brilliance, the all-natural brilliance, strength, and nerve given to you at the outset of your journey. If you decide to jump in, you better go all out. There is no room for mediocrity. Swear to live life to the hilt, or step aside, get out of the way, and we'll call the next being in line. You take the divine up on its offer, a deal encoded, genetically programmed into your DNA. You vow to live life fully and leave empty. You now have a contract with your Creator. The adventure and your obligation to fulfill begins. There is an outstanding invoice on your head, and there's only one way to pay it off. You depart as the guardian of your own grit. Your awesomeness is built in. You're hardwired with the potential to pull off almost anything, constituted with a natural resilience, a temperament, and the tools to complete the transaction and fulfill your unique destiny. Now, fight as we may, and it will, that's its job, fate has other plans when you arrive. Even so, you cannot be derailed. Huff and puff as it might, fate cannot void your destiny without your express permission, which means that there are really only two types of people in the world: those that keep the promise and those that take a pass, those that adhere to the original conditions of their adventure, and those that acquiesce to fate. Dangerous game to be playing. I think the universe holds grudges, and it's got a memory that lasts a lifetime. Look, you took an oath to be impeccably human, to bring your A game to life. Your initiative is indelibly etched in your soul. Now, your dreams are nothing more than the echoes of that initial deal you made. Seal that deal or go home broken. You made a pact with the higher power. Are you living up to that promise? You entered a bargain. God delivered. Did you? And that's the question you have to ask yourself. So, in the battle between destiny and fate, and I get a lot of people all the time say, well, Brian, why are you splitting hairs? I believe you're born with a destiny encoded, as I just said. It's fate's job to derail you, right? That's why they call life the game of life. You ever heard that? So imagine for a moment you're playing basketball or maybe football. Let's stick with football. You're a punt returner, a kickoff returner. You get the ball, right? Kicks off, you see it in the air, you get ready to grab it. The moment you start downfield, obviously, you have a tending, right? You have an idea about wanting to score the goal. But the defense, it has a different destiny in mind. So in life, you can look at the defensive players attempting to tackle you, attempting to get you to fumble the ball. You can look at that as fate. You have a destiny as a receiver. You're going to catch the ball and hopefully score the points. But fate is laying in wait for you in the labyrinth. We've talked before about the labyrinth of life, right? The ups and downs, the lefts and rights, the pivots and the swerves. As John, a listener last week, said, don't forget to remind everybody, shift happens. We're constantly shifting, constantly, looking at what's coming at us. Look at what the defense is trying to do, and then maneuver in such a way, meander with the sole meaning of making sure they can't tackle us, that fate can't tackle us and derail us. So, as you move through your day, think of the destiny. You can feel it in your heart. Intuitively, you know it. Instinctively, you know it. And that's why the most successful people in any endeavor never allow life, i.e. fate, to get in the way of their living. They do whatever they have to in the moment to take the fingerprints of providence, to take whatever the defense throws at it, whatever fate throws at it, square its shoulders, don't hide from it, and say, okay, what do I got to do here? Is this a pivot, a swerve, a left, a right, an up, a down, a hurdle, a slide, right? Shift happens. Do I need to shift? Or in this 20 minutes, am I taking the evidence? Am I taking fate's plan and being able to maneuver in and around it so I can fulfill my destiny? Because I truly believe we come encoded with that destiny. So I want to thank also, let me see if I can get here. Where is she? I want to say it by name just in case I should. So I'll just mention Ursel, who sent a post this morning. It says, the aim of life is to live. And to live means to be aware, joyously, drunkenly, serenely, divinely aware. And that was a quote from Henry Miller. So what I'm suggesting is in the moment, when it comes to reading the defense, when it comes to reading what fate is going to throw at you, the aim of life, the game of life, is to be aware, joyously, drunkenly, serenely, divinely aware of what fate is doing to try to derail you from achieving your destiny. The game of life is to tell fate, that's all you brought? Right? That's what you're here to do, is try to derail me? And that's the mark of a superhuman. If you're listening to this and you go, oh yeah, I would love to confront my fate and go, sorry, not today. I have a destiny. I'm going to achieve. Here's what I'm going to pull off right now in the next 20 minutes. So as you move through your day, let's contemplate that. Let's contemplate the fingerprints of providence. Remember, the divine, however you define it, is leaving clues, cognitive cairns, little directionals that you find right under your feet, not on a distant horizon, but right under your feet that tell you what the very next step should be. All right? We're going to run to a quick little break, and we will be right back.
You're listening to All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy. How much longer will you let them hijack your head and your heart?
All right. I said in the open that I wanted to talk about the non-herd approved version of you, that I fall asleep every night thinking about it, right? But I also fall asleep thinking about the people, the satellite entities that are around you. Can't let them hijack your heart and your head, right? You have a destiny to fulfill. And it could very well be that some of the people that are around you aren't tuned to their own destiny. So they're thinking, he doesn't need to do that, or I'll just sit here on the couch. I'm pretty good with, what life's thrown at me, and there's no reason to worry about my destiny. I'm already here, right? I almost view it like going on a cruise ship. You ever think of going on a cruise and then just leaving yourself locked in your room? I mean, you're going to someplace cool. Let's say you're going to Alaska, or maybe even you get a cruise somewhere around the equator, someplace really tropical. Would you hang out in your room, watch TV? Something you could do any day of your life? Some people do that. But for you, your all-natural being, and that sense of your superhuman status, you're not going to let that happen. You have a destiny to fulfill, and you're not going to sit around and let fate derail it. All right, give me a tweet, at Brian Brawdy. You're welcome to send me a tweet. Also, you can reach out to us. There's a link on the IPMNation.com. If you look at it, there's a way you can chat with me in the chat room, but you can also reach out to me at 331-684-SOUL, spelled S-O-U-L, or 331-684-7685. And we're talking today about not being derailed from your destiny. Don't let the defense, if it's basketball, you figure a half court, right? We're just out of March Madness. If they're throwing a half court defense, you play a half court offense. They're going to give you the full court, then toss the ball. All right? You're here with a destiny. Don't let fate derail it. All right, and I want to talk briefly a couple different things. People say, well, how will you know what your destiny is? Right? It's very popular today, and it's a very popular self-help industry tactic to tell you to find your calling. Like it's something that's prefabbed, right? Like it comes in a nice, neat, wrapped little package. You pull the bow, right after you hire them to teach you how to pull the bow and unwrap the package, right? Like you need to be taught how to take scissors and open some duct tape or whatever. How do you know what your destiny is? It unfolds in the moment. We spoke before about Steve Jobs talking about connecting the dots. Arthur Schopenhauer, the philosopher, talking about pieces of the jigsaw puzzle. But they present themselves in the moment. You can have a tending, right? You can have a general sense of how your destiny may unfold. But as to the particulars, as to the ingredients, as to those very pieces of the jigsaw puzzle, they unfold in the moment. All right? So that said, think about it. It's going to unfold in the moment. In your 20-minute victory, those cognitive cairns, those little directionals that pop up to show you, oh, this is a rabbit hole, right? For those of us that don't pigeonhole ourselves, here's a rabbit hole you may want to plumb. See what's going on. See if it has anything that could benefit you in manifesting your destiny, if you will. A couple great books Richard Bode, unfortunately, had passed away in 2003, 2004. A couple great books, but one of them I want to highlight this morning is a quote from the beachcombing at Miramar. And I want to use this paragraph, just a phenomenal paragraph that he wrote, to kind of act as a hint as how we might be able to reconnect with that still small voice, right? That seat where our impeccable humanity sits, our organic perfection sits. How would we know? Here's what he says. The deep, driving hunger of the soul is there. It will not go away. And we pay an awesome price each time we push it down into the pit of our being. Little by little, the colors fade, and the sound of music goes out of our lives. You know, there's also a poet, Coleman Barks, that calls it a howling necessity. Right? Intuitively, you know, if the color has started to fade, if the music is going out of your life, if it's taken over more by apathy, and then your sense of an inner superhuman has started to atrophy, right? That's where the amnesia comes from. But you can tell. And if you listen long enough, right? We've talked before about the mind being like any other muscle in your body. If you train yourself to listen for that still small voice, if you train yourself to go, okay, I'd like to slowly re-add some color. I'd like to slowly re-add some music to my life. Now, the key to doing it, as you know, I believe, is in your 20-minute victory, you go ahead and remove the static, remove the plaque, right? Remove the varnish, the veneer, the paint, any of the obstacles, any of the static quo that's blocking you from hearing that music, from appreciating the full breadth and depth of those colors. It's not about finding something. It's about losing something. Almost think about it. Again, Coleman Barks, a howling necessity, right? Why is it a howling necessity? One, because you brokered a deal to be here, right? Seal the deal or go home broken. The divine, however you define it, lived up to its end of the bargain. You're here against truly unimaginable odds. And I know it's fashionable and somewhat easy really to think, well, I'm here, so I'm here. But if you look back at just what your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents had to go through for you to be here, the particular you that you're so certain of, for that you to be here, all kinds of chance occurrences had to happen. And then if you take that back 1,000 years, if you take it back to the life of the earth, if you take it back to the life of the universe, so many things had to line up absolutely perfectly in order for you to be listening to the sound of my voice. So when I say unimaginable odds, it's for that reason. None of us should be here. With truly astronomical odds that any one of us incorporated here as we did. And when we did, we were given a destiny to fulfill. No matter what fate tries to do, the howling necessity remains. And if we don't turn the volume all the way down, right? If we listen to that inner voice, if we listen to our intuition, our instincts, our gut sense, we don't turn that voice down, the howling necessity remains. As Richard Bode said, the deep hunger of the soul. Because it doesn't want to go home broken. It wants to live up to its destiny. It made a deal. It wants to secure that deal. Why would you want it any other way? So listen to that howling necessity, especially in your next 20-minute victory. Because in addition to that necessity, that howling, that growling within, that intuitive sense, there's all kinds of evidence around you that points you in the specific direction that you need to go, the specific direction that you need to be looking into. The fingerprints of providence. You know, as I said again from Marcel, thank you so much for the quote, but you have to be divinely, serenely, joyously aware of everything going on around you. And when you practice that, now I know Believe me, even from my good friend Bob last week, give me a hard time. Well, I'm not going to abandon my goals. Great. Don't anyone listen to me. Don't abandon your goals. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. As we know now, we're talking about for the next 20 minutes, what can we do to listen to that still small voice? As I'm sitting here this morning, I should say hello. A couple city workers are coming by, and they have these long-handled. They look like they have like a grip at one end and three prongs at the other, and they're picking up trash. What if you could use one of those in the mind? What if you could use one of those to pick up all those thoughts, the mind litter that Jen talked about last week in a text? What if you could use one of those tools to go in, right? Gandhi's dirty feet. What if you could use one of those tools to go in, grab the litter, and pull it out? Right? So we're not talking about abandoning your goals. I'm simply suggesting that for 20 minutes, try it on for size. And I think what's going to happen, I'm absolutely confident, maybe that's a better way to put it, I'm absolutely confident that you're going to feel those secrets. You're going to hear the still small voice, and it takes a little bit of practice. How many times have I said throughout the course of the last 30 years in studying this, it's simple, but it's not easy. You got to commit to spend some time to pick up the trash, right? To remove all that binge thinking. It takes a little bit of time to go on a mental diet, right? To push back from some of those philosophical or those cognitive calories that keep us philosophically obese. Everyone's running around going, I got to lose weight, I got to lose this, I got to lose that, blah, 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 blah. But then we don't think about all the thoughts that are compelling us. What would be wrong if you were happy? No more shaming. What would be wrong with being happy? And if for the next 20 minutes, if you can't do it all day long, for the next 20 minutes, how would you act? How would you look at yourself if there were no shaming? What would you do specifically? What would you do if you thought you were a rock star? If you thought you were a badass, which you are, how would you look at life? And what's really cool about it is how life looks back at you. All my years in law enforcement, we talked about, a friend recently called me and said, hey, my sister's going to travel overseas. Can you give me any advice on how she could be safe? And the number one thing that I tell people, men, women, people of all ages, don't look like a victim. Don't look like a victim. All right? Don't let anyone see you looking down. Don't let anyone see you, or for that matter, even utterly amazed at where you are. Don't look lost. Don't round your shoulders. Walk with a purpose. Don't just be kind of like dawdling around. It's the same with fate. It's the same with fate. If it sees that it can victimize you, it in fact will. But someone that's filled with their destiny, someone that's in touch with their all-natural being, that is aggressively decided to unleash their inner superhuman, fate doesn't look at you as an easy target, right? It says, wow, okay, he or she, they know what they're doing. I'll find somebody else. Don't be victimized by that litter. Don't be victimized by the binge thinking. Don't be victimized by all the other things going on in the crawl spaces of your mind, right? Your mind's entourage. For the next 20 minutes, don't buy into any of that. Tap into your inner superhuman, your all-natural being, the place where your destiny is encoded. And what would you do? What would you do? Knowing that life is going to be fired up, right? All providence moves to. We used that quote last week. If you get a chance to stop over at brianbrawdy.com, that's our focus there. All natural being is to remove all those things that block you. It's not necessarily about building something up. It's just getting out of your own way, getting off your own back, and to live life truly at the pinnacle, whatever pinnacle you decode in the moment. You don't necessarily have to have a pinnacle on the horizon. The pinnacle and the horizon is under your feet, under your nose right now. So what would you do if you didn't have any of that baggage? What would you do? How would your life unfold in the next 20 minutes? All right, we're going to go ahead and hit the break at the bottom of the hour, and we will be, I'm hoping, we will be right back. All right, where'd you go, little slider? Oh, there you are. Okay, so then I do this. Oh, I wish this were a video so you could see everything I have to go through here. All right, we'll be right back.
You're listening to All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy. Because friends don't let friends fall for self-help industry tactics.
All right, we're back. I love this portion of the show because it's an important part of my life. Self-help industry tactics, right? If you think of the acronym, SHI, and technically you know where we're going with that. I like it because it's harmful if swallowed, right? These are things that you're told in an attempt to make you feel better, but they're really just putting a Band-Aid on a bigger wound, a bigger cut. Self-help industry tactics, convincing you there's something wrong with you, which there isn't. Convincing you that you're infirm in some way, which you're not. You may have some pretty lousy self-appraisal skills, some self-assessment skills, but your self doesn't need any help. There's nothing inherently wrong with you. In the self-help industry, the big business, right? I call it the motivational industrial complex, is designed to make you feel that you're broken, right? Because if they can convince you that you're broken, well, look here, I got a splint, I got some Band-Aids, I got some feel-good, right? I've got some meds, I've got whatever else. As I call them, philosophical pharmaceuticals. But the bottom line is, if you have irritable brain syndrome, it's because of what you decide to focus on in the moment, right? Nothing wrong with you. Now, we buy into that from a very early stage in life. We're told, oh yeah, great. In order for you to fit in, you better do it my way. You're infirm in some way. You're feeble. You don't have any flexibility. So we have to do it this way. We have to conform, right? Why buy into that baloney anymore? I'm still fascinated by a study. Was it like last year or the year before? There was $13 billion spent in the self-help industry. $13 billion. How many people can there be running around thinking that they're broken? Apparently, there's quite a few. So I drink the snake oil, harmful if swallowed, right? Why get into it? A little later in the week, we're going to be discussing some things that are distractions. That all these cool things that we're supposed to be doing. Oh, we want to be grounded. We want to be spiritual. We want to move for a higher consciousness. We're going to go over a whole list of things. I think it's on Thursday's show. We'll recap when we're done here. But a whole list of things that you can do. But my question is, you're already there. You don't need a higher consciousness. It's already in you. You don't need a better self. I saw this on Facebook this morning. Someone offering soul training. And your soul goes, I need the training? Me, your soul. I'm the one that needs the training. I think at times it just looks at you from the inside and goes, what happened to you? It knows what happened, right? Right? You got derailed. You don't dovetail your heart and your head. Soul training. That was another one we'll talk about. There was a cleansing. What is it? Like a chakra cleansing. What if you're already perfect the way you are? What if there is that natural, organic perfection? You're just distracted from it. You're busy doing something else, right? You got someplace to be. Oh, you got to buy this new goal-setting book. Really? A goal-setting book. Right? Like, okay, I'm at A. I want to be at B, so I need a book to tell me how to get from A to B. Think about it. You already know, in terms of inner orienteering, you already know how to do this stuff. But we're talking about the static quo. We're talking about those things that distract you from being the badass you know you are. Self-help industry tactics, harmful if swallowed. At times, I wish the Surgeon General would come out with that, that little notice that says, this is dangerous to your health, because it is. We talked, I believe it was on Friday, about diets, right? We worry about what we put in our stomachs. We don't want any genetically modified foods, but we don't mind genetically modified opinions. We'll accept anybody telling us what they think about us, what they think our journey should be. But who are they? Who am I? I make it a habit of telling people, listen to me, please, for like 20 minutes. And if it doesn't work for you, never tune in again. You don't have to call me again. You don't have to work with me again. I am so confident that if you invest, are you not worth 1/72nd of your day? And if at the end of that 20 minutes, you decide, well, I got it now. Thanks, Bri. I'm on my way. Then you and I are probably not going to hang out a lot in the future, right? You don't need another guru. We talk about the exotic. You don't have to travel thousands of miles or go back thousands of years to understand any of this. You were born a superhuman, capable of doing all kinds of great things. How's that working out for you? If it isn't working out for you, why isn't it? What is it about the situation that you find yourself in that's trapping you from being who you already are? No more goals, no more self-help industry tactics, right? What if nothing is wrong with you? What if you don't need any medication? What if you could sit for 20 minutes, take a deep breath, exhale a little bit, have to torture yourself with any kind of gymnastics. Maybe not in the beginning. Look, you get through your 20-minute victory and decide, oh, I'd like to take up yoga. Great. Who am I? I'm simply saying in the very beginning, don't torture your back. Don't torture your knees. Don't worry about where your hands are. Sit, be comfortable, take a breath in. Remember the best acronym? Breathe in, exhale. Scan the horizon. Search for clues. What is it in this moment? What are the fingerprints of Providence telling you what your very next steps should be? If you're climbing Mount Everest, you have a general tending that you want to get to the top, right? But you can't tell one footpath, one foot strike, one stride at a time is what gets you there. Same with unleashing your superhuman status, one step at a time. What does this moment hold for you? And remembering, as we said earlier, shift happens. What you're doing right now, you may need to take a left, take a right. May need to slow down a minute, may need to speed up. But ultimately, you decide. That's the brilliance of the 20-minute victory. No self-help industry tactics, right? No mototainment experts jumping around on stage, right? We talked before with all the hand-clapping gymnastics, all the bells and buzzers and whistles of a Vegas slot machine, right? Because motivation is within. Inspiration is within, right? Inspiration. Enthusiasm is within. If you're getting it from the outside, it's a quick fix. And we're going to go all over that a little later in the week. I think it's Thursday. We'll look at that before we go. All right, 331-684-SOUL. That's 331-684-7685. And I also want to thank a couple of the people that sent in some questions over the weekend just to give me an idea of some of the directions that we can go. One of them I got from Kim. And Kim asks, when you first start off on your 20-minute victory, is it okay to do a 2-minute victory? Kim, that's a great point. You build baby steps. If you've never given yourself 2 minutes to be proud of who you already are, if you've never given yourself 2 minutes to tap in outside of the committee vote, right? All the walking, talking Venus flytraps trying to hold you back in your life, right? All the human pits of quicksand trying to suck you in and hold you down. If you can only get 2 minutes, but you spend that 2 minutes in conversation with your still small voice, absolutely worth it, right? And then the next time you come back, you'd say, okay, I have 2 minutes. I'm going to add a minute. Maybe you can add 5, 10, right? Scale this any way you want. I like 20 because it takes me a minute or two maybe to get my mind to calm down, right? All the binge thinking takes a little bit, listening to my breath, figuring out what I'm going to, what's going to present itself in the moment. And then I build into it. And I like to give myself a minute or two at the end to slowly start coming out. Sometimes I set an alarm so that because I've sat before and gone for 40 minutes. Everyone goes, where were you? And I go, wow, was it really 40 minutes? So yes, Kim, if you're first starting out and you want to give yourself a 3-minute victory, God love you. That's what I would do. Because that 3 minutes communing with who you already are, tapping into that unimaginable power, truly unimaginable power of living in the present moment, that's going to be huge. And then when you come back next time, build it anytime you want. So yes, it's scalable, moving both up and down. You can use these any way you like. I also wanted to make mention of a question that I was asked about handling outside opinion. If you, over your life, has have a steady diet of always looking for applause, always looking for the committee vote, this can be kind of a tough gig, right? You got to train yourself to tune your ears out, turn them off. Listen only to that still small voice, that whisper. Now, it may come to you as a feeling. It may be intuitive. It may be instinctual. It may be something that quickens your heart or grabs your spine, right? But you want to learn, one little bit at a time, to listen to those people that want to give you their advice. I sit here right across the street. There is a dentist right here. If I go into the dentist, I don't tell the dentist what to do to my teeth, right? My dentist, she's the expert. So sometimes there'll be some advice that you can use, news you can use. But you decide in that moment if it's the type of advice that's going to be harmful if swallowed. But if you run from it, if you ignore it, you never have a chance of figuring out one way or another. News you can use or harmful if swallowed. In that moment, you decide. So we may have a steady diet. It's like, right? I love like chocolate chip cookies. I don't know if you make oatmeal raisin cookies with chocolate chips in it. I just love them. But what I found is I can't eat as many as I would really like to. So I don't swear them off. Today I'll have one less cookie than I had yesterday. And I kind of build to that point where I can slowly do away with the craving for oatmeal raisin cookies with chocolate chip inside. They're just fantastic. The way my wife makes them. Fantastic. But in any event, so you're accustomed to listening. Talk about my mind going off to those cookies. I think I actually was starting to, I could taste them. If you have a habit of listening to outside opinion, then do, as I think we were talking about Kim just a moment ago, as Kim suggested, can you do a 2-minute victory? Sure. Spend 2 minutes not listening to the static quo in your life. All the people, well, I know what's best for you. I have the best intentions for you. Might very well be. Never going to know till you let it in and then decide, is it worthwhile or not? And then it really comes down to the difference between intention and attention. With intention, you're constantly working towards some distant horizon. With attention, you're paying attention to what's right under your nose, what's right under your feet. And in that moment, will that advice benefit you or not benefit you? How will it work? And if we don't have an intention of, we've got somewhere else to be, if we meander without a sense of meaning, right? We're just meandering through the moment. We're sauntering through the moment so that we're slow enough to be able to see the tips, right? See the directionals, the cognitive cairns, the fingerprints of providence, all the hints about what we need to do next. Can't do that if we're busy, always looking at a distant horizon, always with an intention. But when we pay attention And we're subject to all these opinions, all this goodwill, all these thumbs ups or thumbs down coming at us. Only in that moment can we decide, is that something that will be a benefit or not for us? No cold turkey. No throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You decide in that moment. All right, we're going to go ahead and run to another quick break. We will be right back.
You're listening to All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy. Because it's never too late to take your life back.
So true, so true, so true. Neuroplasticity. Countless scientific studies now done saying, regardless of your age, too young or too old. Well, you're never too young. You're never too old. You can start right now changing the way the neurons connect in your brain. And the cool thing about it, it's popular belief now that the body follows the mind. That's absolutely true. You see something, your heart quickens. You hear a noise that scares you, you get that little pit in your stomach. Your body follows your mind. But the cool thing about all natural being and unleashing your inner superhuman is that your mind can learn to follow your soul, right? Your soul, your superhuman, your all-natural being sits back and it looks at what your mind's doing, right? So if your body is subject to your mind is absolutely subject to your all-natural being, to your superhuman. So you decide, is my mind going to work for me or is it going to work against me, right? That's what you do. So when you sit at any age and begin this practice, you say to yourself, I'd rather my mind be a sanctuary than an asylum. So how do we do it? 20-minute victory at a time. Realize you are not the dialogue that goes on in your mind. You are not that narrative. Your binge thinking isn't you. It's something that the mind uses that you ultimately control. But it isn't you, right? Your house isn't you. Your favorite pairs of shoes isn't you. Your favorite golf clubs, they're not you. They're things that you've learned to use along your journey, but they're not you. Much the same as the dialogue, the narrative, the binge thinking, the crazed monkey that we hear from Zen, right? The crazed monkey, your mind going wild. It's never too late, never too early to learn how to sit, take in that deep breath, look at what your mind is doing, and then decide, am I in or am I out? Your mind's job is to think. That's what it does, right? But there's a difference between binge thinking and all natural thinking. And you're never too young or never too old to learn about that. All right, now another question that we just had come in. Let me see. What is the difference? Oh, that's a good one. All right. That's a good one from David. All right. Asking when it comes to destiny or fate, is there really an entity named fate? Well, that's why we started off talking about this as a thought experiment. I can tell you that in my life, I look at the two as separate, distinct possibilities. Who am I? Do I know if there's a destiny? Who am I? Do I know if there's a fate? Who am I? Right? This is about you doing a thought experiment. And if it grabs you, like it grabbed me, right? This stuff works for me. If it grabs you, it will absolutely work for you. I believe we're all born with a purpose. Now, I don't think it's some etched in stone purpose, right? What did Michelangelo say in carving the statue of David? That the statue was already in the stone, and I was tasked with removing the excess marble, so that the statue could come to life. He also says in his book of poetry, with chisel in hand, all is well. The more the marble wastes, the more the statue grows. So, if your destiny is like the statue of David, and he says that the more the marble wastes, the more the statue grows, the more he's able to peel away the baggage, peel away the veneer, peel away all the effects of fate. One chisel, with chisel in hand, all is well. Then the statue's born. So, is there a destiny? Is there a fate? It's the metaphor that I use to say, you're here for a purpose, right? I don't think, if he were alive today, I doubt he would have used a jackhammer. I doubt he would have used a sandblaster or, some other heavy-duty way of exposing the statue of David. One chisel, one chip at a time. You peel away one little bit of the adverse effects of fate. Now, if you don't want to believe that they're distinct entities, it could very well be that you have a plan, you have an idea of how the next 20 minutes is going to unfold, and something moves to block that. There's a distraction, there's a derailment of some sort. I happen to call it fate. The first came upon this idea reading a quote from Beethoven, and it's always stuck with me. It's a one-liner, and Beethoven said, "I will grab fate by the throat." Right? Think about that. I will grab fate by the throat. So in Beethoven's mind, he had something to achieve. Fate got in the way. And if fate continued to bug him, he would grab him by the throat. And that registered very deeply in me. Because if you are born with the purpose of uncovering your purpose, then anything that stands in the way of that, in my estimation, is fate. But again, you try it out. You'll tell me. You'll know as you come out whether you're a 2-minute victory or a 20-minute victory. You'll have a gut, an instinctual sense of how this is going to work. And in the end, the only opinion that matters is yours. Not mine, but yours. Before we leave Michelangelo, I've never been able to see them in person. I've seen some great pictures, and if you've traveled there and are able to see them, God love you. But it was always fascinating to me when you look at the slaves, the other statues that he started on, right? And I'm told that lining the hallway to get to where the statue of David now lives, there are these slaves. And it looks like he never finished them. I mean, if you just go in and Google Michelangelo slaves, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's like the statues are half in and half out of the marble. And, all the art historians, a lot smarter than I am in this regard, say, well, he had a busy schedule, right? He had a lot of traveling. He was a jet setter and a real popular guy at his time. He didn't get a chance to finish them. But I don't know if that's true. And I think the brilliance of having those slave statues in the hallway leading up to the statue of David is to say what made David a champion was that he listened to that still small voice. The slaves, they're still trapped in it. They're still covered in the varnish, the veneer, right? All the paint thrown on the beautiful wood underneath. And if you know anything about the story of David, right? He goes to battle Goliath, kind of like the Minotaur, if you will, in the labyrinth. Theseus goes to battle. David goes to battle Goliath. So when David decides to get out there, all the generals, all the experts, right, all the gurus around him go, okay, if you're sure you want to do this, here's a shield, here's some armor, here's a sword, here's a spear, here's all this stuff. And I don't know if he really tried them on or not, but very early on, David goes, nah, you know what, I'm good. Appreciate the intention. You keep your spear, Mr. General. You hold on to your sword, your shield, and all your armor. I'm going to do what I know best. The pebble and the stones from the brook. He took what was at hand. It didn't say he brought the stones with him from somewhere else, right? On the battlefield, in that moment, he found those, I believe it was 3 stones, right? And if you know the story, then you know what happens to Goliath in the aftermath. To me, that's always been a focal point of my thought, and my thought experiment, is that the slaves are still entrapped in the marble. because they're still wearing someone else's definition of armor, of a sword, a spear, a shield, maybe a chariot, I don't know. Right? But the beauty of David, what made him the champion, was he ignored all that. In his battle with an overwhelming force, what did he do? He went back to what he knew. He went back to the fingerprints of providence. He went back to his superhuman status, his all-natural being. And I think that's why he's one of the biggest names in history. And I think that's why Michelangelo, in carving those statues, in freeing David from the stone, purposefully left the slaves encased to give us an idea, looking at them, the difference between an all-natural being, between your superhuman and a hobbled soul. Someone still encased, someone refusing to peel away all the status quo in their lives. So if you get a chance to Google it, there's also a great story about, when he uncovers this piece of marble, I think that had been out back in the churchyard for years. Nobody wanted it. It was like a piece of junk. That's when he decided, no, that's the piece of stone, right? How cool is that? It's a piece of junk. If you've ever felt that way about yourself, that you're not special enough, you ever have felt like that whole concept of personal shaming or any of those other things, champion's still in there, or the championess, male or female, still in there. So you have to decide, do you free one chisel at a time, one 20-minute victory at a time? Do you free that inner champion, or do you live your life like a slave, half in, half out? Varying degrees of freedom. When you Google the slaves, you'll see varying degrees of freedom. I think it was brilliant. I don't think it had anything to do with him being a better scheduler. I think he absolutely knew what he was doing when he left those slaves in the condition that we currently have them today. All right, so ask yourself, what can I do today? Chisel in hand, all as well. What can I do to go ahead and unleash my inner superhuman, one little chisel tap at a time? All right, before we run, I want to thank a couple of people. Again, I want to thank the folks from Metropolitan Co-working, the home of 14 Blends. Also want to let you know that the city of Aurora, where we're broadcasting from, made the top 10 cities of people listening in just in a week. So that was pretty cool. I was told this morning, made it all the way to number 6. So I wouldn't be there. We wouldn't be able to do this if it weren't for those folks, logging in, listening, tuning in, sending us some comments and critiques. So I really appreciate it. I also want to make mention of today being the anniversary of a death of a very dear friend of mine. And John Jeffers was the kind of guy that you could count on enveloping you in banter and a debate. And it didn't matter what you were talking about, because you could flip the tables and he could pick up and keep up with you. And he's been gone for a couple of years. Today is the 2-year anniversary. And I miss him. And I miss that sense of banter and debate, constantly challenging me to learn more than I knew the moment before. So I miss him. I just want to throw out his name to his friends and family that might be listening. He was a really special guy. And someone I will definitely never forget. All right, so as we get ready to launch and get out of here, until next time, just remember who you are. Remember all the natural resources you already possess. And we can focus on the many things that you are ultimately capable of when, as you know, you tap in to the unimaginable power of living in the present moment. No more limitations, no more excuses, no more unhappiness. And if throughout the day you feel a little off center or out of balance, stressed or sad, simply take a moment to remember who you are. Those are feelings, those are garments. They're not you. We were talking about the you before the committee vote got a hold of you, the authentic you, the organic you. It's time to bring your grit. Grant yourself a 20-minute victory, or 2 or 3 of them. Scale them any way that best fits you in the moment at hand. No more shaming. No more character assassination. No more maligning yourself. There's plenty of people that are going to attempt to do it. Don't jump on the bandwagon. You are here to release your unique brand of brilliance. So let's get to it. No more letting someone drag your mind through the mud. You're not a pincushion, a verbal punching bag, a target for their projections? No more letting anyone litter in your mind. Who are they to invalidate you? It's your call. Are you primed, or are you going to be prey? Is your mind a sanctuary or an asylum, as we talked about earlier? Until we catch up next time, tap the intrinsic perfection that sparks your soul. You were born a superhuman. Is today the day you start acting like it? See you soon.
You've been listening to All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy.
Join us live every Monday through Friday, 7 to 8 a.m. Eastern.
Also, check us out around the clock at allnaturalbeing.com.
Until then, always remember to bring your own bold.
IPMNation.com.